Hello, and welcome back to AGXM. Joining us today is a popular crypto and Bitcoin personality, Lark Davies, founder of the popular YouTube channel, The Crypto Lark. But first, as always, if this is your first time joining us, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel, as well as check out agxpay.com to learn how the power of modern silver money can help you claim financial freedom. Now to our interview. Lark, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on. Very excited to have a chat.
So, lots of exciting things to talk about today, but before we dive in, for some of our viewers who might not be familiar with your work, give us a look at what the Crypto Lark is all about and how you came to be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been doing cryptocurrency content creation since 2017, and really the focus of the channel is to be educative for people and to give them a lot of value and to let people know what's going on in the markets. I've got interviews with some of the top people in the cryptocurrency space, lots of different viewpoints come out, talking about news as well. I've also launched a course called Cryptocurrency Explained, trying to help beginners who need that really just those step-by-step movements through crypto to get into crypto and to really just find as many ways as possible to get more people on the cryptocurrency train.
That's fantastic that you're providing that kind of education. I remember back in 2017 when I first started interacting with cryptocurrencies, there were a lot of mental hurdles that I needed to get over. So that's fantastic that you're doing that. Now, elephant in the room here, but the COVID-19 virus has been wreaking anarchy on markets across the board, crypto included. I'm curious what you're seeing in the market right now for the cryptosphere. What kind of sentiment is it that you're seeing? Is it bullish, bearish, or is it even plateauing?
I would say that in general, it's been very interesting because we've seen a lot of new buyers coming in after the massive dip that we had on Black Thursday back in March. But overall, there has remained a lot of fear and uncertainty in the markets. We can see this with the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index. We've been under 20 for basically the last month. Have moved back up closer to 20, but still we're in extreme fear zones. And of course, we're in an extreme fear zone because there's basically complete uncertainty about how things are going to play out. No one knows how this is going to play out necessarily, what the long-term economic impacts could be. And of course, really what it's going to be doing to the markets. And because Bitcoin and the wider cryptocurrency market as a result of Bitcoin has been so linked to the traditional legacy markets, the stock markets and all these things, that we really, if we are going to see some really big hits taken again in the stock markets, that's likely to transfer onto Bitcoin as well. And because of the economic uncertainty and the possibility of seeing an economic depression rolling out, that could be very bad in the midterm for cryptocurrencies. Short term, though, we see a lot of government stimulus coming in, and that is propping up the markets.
I'm actually really glad that you brought that up because while right now we're seeing the propping up of markets and no one knows what way it will land, there's potentially a lot of impact. And I'm curious what you see this doing for the blockchain industry in the long term.
Over a long-term period, I think it's really interesting to see how it all plays out because obviously as economic uncertainty, if we do see a really big depression kind of situation happen, that will wash out some blockchain companies, some exchanges and things like this. But I think that for the most part, you'll see cryptocurrency being a rather resilient industry because a lot of these exchanges are incredibly profitable. Maybe some of the blockchain companies that make smaller projects, those could see face harder economic times because you'll just have fewer buyers coming in if there is really, really intense economic pain in the long term. Again, short term governments have been working to mitigate that with airdropping money and giving money for the repo markets and all these things. If we do hit a long term economic recession, there's going to be a lot of priorities for things that are not speculative investments, and people will be more focused on how do they pay the rent this week, how do they put food on the table. But again, there's always going to be a class of people who, regardless, market up, market down, whatever's happening with the economy, we're talking 30-40% of potentially the population will have the ability to be investing in things, and they will see the value in investing in things like Bitcoin at cheaper prices should that happen. Again, a lot of uncertainty about how this is all going to play out. We may not revisit those lower price points that we've seen.
It's a great statement, actually, that you just made, and expanding on it a little bit, a lot of the experts we talk with see that a lot of governments are injecting stimulus and as a byproduct, creating inflation, which, as you know, drives the value of fiat down. Some experts we speak with see this as a springboard for greater blockchain adoption. Do you see this potential being a reality?
Absolutely. I think that the economic reaction to this is the exact reason why Bitcoin is so important, because really what we're seeing is massive amounts of money being printed, massive amounts of debt being created. The whole idea behind the modern monetary theory is just, it's craziness. The central banks are just going insane right now, printing wild amounts of money, buying up junk bonds. I mean, that was just a shocking announcement last week that the Federal Reserve will start buying junk bonds. This is the stuff that literally no one else wants. And so the Fed steps in as the buyer of last resort. Now, long term, the economic impact of that on the dollar is devastating. And for people who think that the dollar or the yen or the euro or the pound, that those are safe currencies, they're going to be safe sitting in these currencies, I would like to introduce you to the citizens of Argentina who used to think that the Argentinian peso was a safe currency. There is no safe fiat currency. And if you go and talk to someone in Lebanon, in Zimbabwe, in Argentina, and a whole bunch of other countries, they understand intrinsically how bad fiat currency can be and how much value you can lose in your paper money overnight once that faith has been shaken in the government that backs that currency, because that's all that's backing that paper, faith in the government. And that's not good. I have my faith in mathematics. I've got a large percentage of my net worth in Bitcoin for a reason, because I believe in mathematics. I don't have faith in the government's.
That's a great perspective to take, actually. And while we're talking about currencies and the instability of fiat money, of course, the inversion of that is stability and stable coins. Now, in a recent video, you talk about the potential for bankers, central bankers, to ban stable coins. And recently, the Financial Stability Board released 10 recommendations to the G20 countries around the regulating of stablecoin assets. I don't know if you've had a chance to read them, but I'd love to get your perspective at large on the regulation of these assets.
I think what we're going to see, particularly rolling out with stablecoins, is a kind of a sheriff coming into town sort of situation. We've seen Tether, for example, being this agent of chaos for a very, very long time, with very shady business dealings and with offshore accounts and all these things. And obviously regulators don't like that. If we talk about something like USDC, which is US regulated and fully compliant with all laws and very, very transparent, that's going to be something different. Now, when it comes to regulating these, I think we're going to see a push actually by the regulators not to actually ban. I mean, that is a potential. That is a potential that we could see play out if they think that it's enough threat to their monetary sovereignty. But what I think is really going to happen is we're going to see actually stable coins be brought more into the fold. So when you use something like USDC, for example, you're going to have to go through more KYC, more AML, more regulation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they're going to make using stable coins more in line with using a bank transfer. So you will have these high regulatory processes with these transactions. I would imagine, particularly for larger transactions. I mean, you can understand why regulators are concerned. Right now, there are people moving millions of dollars in stable coins from point A to point B with no one knowing who's moving that money, where they're moving it to, what countries it's going to, which is a nightmare for regulators. Obviously, that's part of the reason why we're so excited about cryptocurrencies, because you can move these value transfers without having these guys in the middle. But these guys in the middle, they're kind of hard to ignore, these regulators, and they will want their piece of the tax pie, right? They don't want to see people doing tax avoidance and all these things. So that is my gut feeling, is that we're just going to see more regulation coming down on stable coins, that we won't actually see a prohibition, at least not of the majority of them. I could see something like Tether, though, really coming under the microscope in this situation.
I actually couldn't agree more with that statement. The parent company to AGX Media is a silver and precious metal backed stable currency project that is largely about returning the world to a sound money standard, and we work quite tightly with regulators across the world. The reason I bring this up is because I think you're right. I think that it won't be an actual ban, but what I do see is that they're setting the bar exceedingly high to prevent potential bad actors from getting involved. Because, as you know, back in 2017, we both were part of that boom. We saw a huge amount of exit scams and a lot of projects with questionable behaviors. So what I'm saying is, I guess I see both sides of it. But since we're talking about stablecoins and we've spoken about Tether and USDC and currencies backed by fiat, what do you make of coins that are backed by real assets like gold, silver, or oil like the petro, or even real estate?
Those are very, very interesting. And obviously, we've seen crypto collateral coins as well. I think that one thing I've been disappointed by is that there hasn't actually been more of an emphasis on using gold within the crypto economy, actually using gold as a unit of account on exchanges instead of the dollar all the time. That'd be really great to see gold or even silver actually having a larger piece to play within the crypto economy. Now, obviously, when we're talking about a gold or a silver or even oil backed stable coin, we are again, bringing in commodities, right? And commodities themselves are not stable. They're stable in their unit production, but gold fluctuates in dollar value, which is going to fluctuate in Bitcoin value, right? And oil has been crazy recently, without a doubt. But the idea is certainly interesting of giving this real world backing to these assets. Now, oil is perhaps something that's more hard to put your finger on in terms of determining, well, how much reserves does Venezuela have and all these things. But if we talk about gold, it's relatively easy to verify, or silver, to verify that there is a vault, and that that vault has been audited, and that that vault does have as much as it says it does sitting in that vault. So I actually think it's a really great way to be able to make gold and silver much more useful as a global form of money. Because right now, of course, if you want to send $1 million worth of silver to somebody, it's very difficult. Probably got to hire, charter a plane to do that, and or get some security team or whatever it might be. It's not easy. Whereas you want to send $1 million of silver to someone using blockchain and tokens that are backed one for one with silver, then it becomes a very, very easy proposition with a few cents of a transaction fee. So that's pretty revolutionary in its scope, to be honest.
I appreciate that sentiment, as will a lot of our viewers. And you're right, it removes a lot of the barriers that traditionally prevent people from using precious metals as a medium of exchange. Everything from storage fees and insurance is sort of encompassed within the project. So oil is perhaps a poor example given its volatility, but for most of the world's history, people have actually used silver and gold as money. And as we've seen during this pandemic, metals have actually held their own fairly well. So thank you so much for joining us today. You've given us a lot of great insight. I'm curious though, if you have any final thoughts for our viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. If you were, I guess, starting off on that journey of learning more about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and things like this, you have to get off zero. If you haven't actually got into the markets yet, just go out, buy yourself a little bit of Bitcoin, and just be in, get some skin in the game. I know that probably a lot of the people listening are already there, but maybe you're just a metal investor and you say, hey, I like my gold, I like my silver, I don't know about this Bitcoin thing. Go learn about it, figure out about it, and get involved. Get off zero. That's probably one of the most important things that you can actually do in any market, really, is be in the market and don't just be sitting on the sidelines.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. I feel that more diversity is better. It would be insane to put all your eggs in one basket. So really, diversity is strength. Thank you for joining us today, Lark, and take care.
Thank you.
That's all we have for today's interview with Lark Davies, the Crypto Lark. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, if this is your first time, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel, as well as check out agxpay.com to learn how the power of modern silver money can help you claim financial freedom.